All right, hi. What's your name again?
I am Mark.
You're
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Boy, you look awfully familiar.
Yes, if you've watched Lego Masters Season 2, you will probably recognize me as one of the contestants on the show.
That's where it's at.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Alrighty, so as far as here at the store, I started working here about 6 years ago, but I've been building with Lego my whole life.
Right.
So I'm pretty well qualified to work here. When I came up, Chris didn't even interview me or anything. He just knew exactly as a regular customer how much I knew about Lego.
Right.
Started working here, enjoying it ever since. But not too long ago, they were starting to approach people for Season 1 of Lego Masters.
Okay.
So didn't work out that time because we were both busy, me and my brother. But then Season 2 rolled around, we were free, had fun, and ended up winning the show. So it was pretty exciting.
And that was awesome. So,
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the process as far as auditioning for the show.
Yeah, so actually, a lot of people do audition. We did not actually go out of our way to apply, which is what a lot of people do. They reached out to us because we have a pretty extensive social media presence of posting Lego stuff for the past couple of years. So they have casting producers, and they actively look out for people who might work out for the show. So they reached out to me, and then they found Steven later, and they were trying to get us for Season 1, like I said, but I was just finishing school, and Steven had just gotten a nice job and didn't want to immediately take a 6-week vacation from that job. So we're like, no, it won't work at all. Then we watched Season 1 and was like, that looks really fun. If they ever do a second season, hopefully we'll get on board. And just worked out. So but yeah, so lots of Zoom interviews because first season they were able to do a lot more in-person stuff.
Right.
But this was 2020, because it was, and so it was very locked down still, so it was all Zoom, all virtual, which is a little bit different, but worked out great, so yeah.
Look where you are now.
Yep, exactly.
And you said little brother, he wasn't really wanting to get in on it? Steve?
No, he's just as Lego enthusiast as I am, but he just had recently started a new job as a welder, and he was really enjoying it, making good money, and he didn't want to have to kind of jeopardize that position. It's a very a lot of hours, very consistent kind of line of work. So, but the second season, they were happy to let him go for a few weeks. They were very excited about that. So,
so how long did the total process take when they first noticed you to you're on the show? So
they first began interviewing for Season 2 in November. And by the time they started filming for it would have been end of February, early March. And over the month of March is when the actually filming took place. So, and then it was 20 weeks till the end of the show airing. So it was a pretty long span of time where you're very actively involved with all the Lego Masters stuff. So.
Now, one question I'm sure a lot of people are wanting to know. The 8-hour, 12-hour builds.
Yeah.
How much are they split up at all?
So anywhere from, there's some as short as 4 or 5 hours, and then there's some, a lot of them are like 8 to 12. Most of those were done in about a day. Sometimes they would be broken up, like you'd start building one in the evening and you build till late in the evening, and then you finish it up the next day. But most of the time it was pretty much a solid like an 8 to 12 hour build session, broken up by a 20-minute lunch break. So it was, when you see people just kind of going bonkers building, it's pretty accurate.
It's pretty accurate.
Yeah, you're on the edge of your seat the entire time. It's very nerve-wracking. So.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, there's times that we were on the edge of our seat for you guys.
Yeah.
So
I can barely watch it anymore because I get such anxiety for being on set.
I don't think I could do that. The amount of pressure. So when you guys do take the breaks. Are you guys allowed to intermix between teams? Are you guys allowed to talk to each other, or is that off limits?
There was a couple rules. One is, you don't have any devices while you're on set, or in between, if you're like, they take a lunch break in a build session, they don't let you look at your phones or anything to kind of do extra research. However, between episodes, when we're at our hotel, they said, research whatever you want. So, do whatever, draw art, get inspiration, but when you're on set, you can't take any of that with you, you just got to remember it from your mind. So there was some limitations, some rules, but pretty lax. They were not trying to lock. It's not like Big Brother where they lock you in a building. It's a little more relaxed than that, and everyone did pretty much fine under those circumstances. As far as what you're able to research and do and talk to each other and mingle with other teams, you were allowed to talk to people. Most teams kept to themselves, just keep focused. So.
In that type of atmosphere, was the aspect of community still there? Are you guys button heads at all? How did that transpire?
Right. It's very interesting. With a kind of a big prize on the line, it's a very competitive situation. They get people who are very skilled and competitive. However, I think that the love of Lego really transcended all of that, because I would say that me and Steven and Zach and Wayne are probably the two most competitive teams, and we still got along great, and with everyone else.
Okay.
So it's like we're all still friends, even to this day. We have a group chat. We chat with each other daily. So it's a very good situation. I think being a little bit more locked down with COVID, we were all in the same room together because we were in our own zone.
Right.
And so we hung out a lot. We were the only people we could hang out with besides a handful of producers. It really created quite a family environment almost. You know, it's like why be enemies when we're all we've got? You know, so it stuck together. It was really good, and I really appreciate that, because it could have been very competitive if the wrong kind of character or environment was there. But thankfully, we were all very friendly. So.
Okay. Yeah. Now, as far as your input that you received from Brickmaster Amy and Jamie,
yeah,
how much of that did we actually see on air, or was there more involved there?
You don't see everything that they're able to share, because these episodes are an hour long and they're condensing, 12 hours of footage from, however many teams are still remaining into that episode. So there's a lot. Like, they would come by at least twice every build. Initially to hear your idea and see what you started with, and then towards the end if they wanted to suggest any kind of changes to help improve your build. One thing, if you were just watching the show and you don't really know their background, both Amy and Jamie are very skilled designers in their own right, but also Lego set designers, so they really know what they're talking about. They're used to kind of helping artists steer in the right direction when they're looking for a end result. Lego fans like to interact and talk about their work.
Absolutely.
So I always, whenever they came by, I was always excited, and whenever they had something to say, I was like, try to do it as much as possible, even if it's not necessarily my preference, because they're the ones deciding who stays and who goes. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so I think you did miss a little bit of it, but they do throw you a few things that they were saying to try and kind of make sense for the story of the episode. So.
And it seems like when we watched it, some of their pointers, if somebody didn't listen, you could tell it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It wasn't good.
Watching season 1, it was a really big indicator. If they were not listening to Amy and Jamie, they were probably going to go home that episode. Yeah. So it's like, whenever they said something, we absolutely tried our best to make it happen.
It seems like they tried to set them on the right path. It's like, this sounds great, but why don't you veer this way? And they didn't do that, and it seems like their time ended.
Exactly. That's pretty much the story. I think that at least that one bare bones fact of the matter gets through enough, which is good, and it's pretty much the truth. There's just a little bit more content on there that sometimes time is an issue. You can't actually execute everything that they're saying. Sometimes the builder has a different plan that's a little bit of a different, and then that usually doesn't work out. Sometimes it did. Like, for example, Dave and Richard, very skilled builders, very good team. They won many challenges in season 2. They often did the opposite of what Amy and Jamie were saying, just because Dave is a little bit headstrong and also very creative. And sometimes it worked great, and sometimes it didn't work great.
It backfired.
Yeah.
That it did.
So if you're trying to get the next generation involved in Lego, I would say start with something that they really enjoy to heart, because like a lot of kids like Star Wars, or a lot of kids like Marvel superheroes. Lego covers a lot of those bases.
That it does.
And so when kids are starting out, they're often just collecting characters that they enjoy. Like, they need Star-Lord, Iron Man, Black Panther, whoever that they're into, or even Luke Skywalker or Kylo Ren. And you kind of get them on like almost an introduction. And then if they really enjoy the build process, they start to enjoy the sets. Helps to kind of move them along the evolution of the Lego fan. A lot of us older 20-something and up, they're more about the building. The younger generation is more about the characters and the kind of IP and the brands. So I think that's the kind of the segue into the art of Lego and the appreciation for it. So.
Now, have you noticed anything as far as the smaller kids getting into Lego, as far as the age group on the box itself? If it says 5 and up, I'm giving it to a 5-year-old, and it seems like they're struggling.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that at all?
So it kind of depends on the person. Sometimes I would see where there's a younger kid, say they're like, anywhere from 4 to 6, and they're already just absolutely ravenous for the next big set. So sometimes we're kind of struggling to meet the creative demand of the child.
So you see it the other way.
I see a little more the other way. At the same time, there's some older kids who still appreciate the younger sets. Like there's a 12 to 14-year-old who still loves Star Wars, and they're willing to go for the sets that are designed for maybe a younger age group. So I think it goes a little bit both ways. It kind of depends on the situation. But I would say slightly more to the younger side, trying to get into the older kids sets. So.
All right, what about the guy that comes in and says, you know what, I've never built Lego. I want to jump into this hobby, and I want this $800 Star Wars set.
I would.
How do you handle
couple
that?
red flags right there. First of all, it's a big set. It's going to take you possibly up to a week if you're spending like getting the big Millennium Falcon, for example.
Right,
it's a coffee table size build. You really got to know what you're into. I would start somewhere in the $60 to $100 range, and that's plenty of cool techniques.
Right.
Something you like if they're like Star Wars, there's plenty of Star Wars ships, or even Marvel builds. Any of those cool themes, or like Minecraft, Jurassic World. Start with something that's feasible.
Right.
You can do it in a day. Great. But some people want to dive right in, and sometimes it works out great. Sometimes it has disastrous consequences.
And it bites them.
Exactly. You sometimes get those people. The set broke them. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
they bought it. They bought it. They tried to build it, and they just realized this is not for me. It's like a extremely complex puzzle, but it's 3D. It has to fit together in Technic and all that. Yeah. So
one of the shops that we just interviewed, they had a gentleman 3 days after he received the brand new Haddad Walker, brought it in the shipping box.
Yep.
And said, I don't want this.
Yep. I'm trading it in, selling it.
He didn't even get it out of the box yet. You know, he already changed his mind that quick. He's like, you know what? This set is not for me.
Yeah, I think that's the diving in too deep problem.
That it really is.
You might want to start a little smaller.
Great talking to you.
Absolutely.
Love having you on the channel.
For sure.
And hopefully they do a Lego Masters Champion Series, and you guys can beat up on the competition.
It's in the contract, and there's talks of it, so you never know. A couple years from now, you might see me again just trying to beat a bunch of international Lego Masters. You never know.
There you go.
Yep.
All right, good talking to you.
Good talking to you, Tim.
All right.